why it's so chaotic. Okay, so we come from chaos. And that's where we want to go back to get our answers. They say that the universe or the cosmos is organized chaos. I used to think so. I don't know anymore if I believe in any organization whatsoever, but we'll see. So we come from chaos, so we go back to chaos to rebirth ourselves. So think about it. God wanted this whole circle to experience himself, and he pushed himself out. Think of the birth. He pushed himself out and created in the 7 days, right? He now took this whole piece and distributed it in 7 days and created the world. When we have behavior change, we do that same thing. We go back to the circle. Chaos in a weird way is somewhat circular because there's nothing. You're going back to this, there's nothingness. All of these theories start with a nothingness. There's a void for the atheists in the room. But something is birthed out of that. Okay? And in order for us to rebirth ourselves again, we have to create all of this chaos just like when we're born. Experience ourselves, set rules. Who gives you your rules? Who gives you your values? Who gives you your judgments? Your parents. So you're questioning everything they taught you so that you can become an adult. And then you're reborn. But on your own set of rules, your own structure, and your own Nordstrom card. This means that the circle is that idea of chaos, or where your client comes from. That's why we always go back to that origin story. We need to know from where they come from. We have to understand where the crack happened in their perfect universe. Where did they want to experience themselves? Okay? That's the thread. You pull the sweater, the whole sweater dismantles. We have one thread, and all we do in all of these times of chaos is tug at that one thing. Ever had a sweater that you can't let it go, and you start, and you're like, oh shit, and you can't, but you can't. It's like an addiction. Like, you have to like just keep pulling it, you know? And thank God you have a tank top because it's just dismantled completely. Okay, that thread. That's when clients come to you. Clients come in state of chaos. Clients come when everything is in shambles, when everything's in chaos and they don't have a structure. They're a naufrago. They're a castaway. Maybe not to the extreme where everything in their life, but something that they knew so sure about, that they had such rigid values and expectations and judgments and ideals, shatters. It could be financial. And when we do astrology, it's going to be very easy. This symbol is Saturn. Saturn is father time. We've talked a little bit about it. Wherever this is in the chart is going to tell you where that person's going to get hit. So in a second, you can see what area of their life is the sector that they're going to get chopped down. Because wherever the person has Saturn in their chart is where they're rigid. Is where they're not willing to give or inch anything. They're not going to budge. So chaos has to come because that's why it's these symbols. Chaos then gives you new rules. Before, your mother and your father gave it to you when they were castrated, and you turned into you. Then you die in whatever chaos you're creating, and you turn into your own Nordstrom card. Does that make sense? Yes. Mm-hmm. What story does that remind you of?
Hephaestus?
No, not Hephaestus. Something much more universal.
Garden of Eden?
What was that?
The Garden of Eden?
No, not the Garden of Eden, but close, same religion.
Adam and Eve.
That's the Garden of Eden. It is similar to Garden of Eden, but I'm thinking of Jesus.
Yeah, for the birth, like
So why do we see repeated in theory after theory, or religion after religion, or mythology after mythology? I keep forgetting the book that I want to bring. That one might be downstairs, but I don't think so. I think I had it in my purse. Let me check. No. And I want to bring you, I'm going to bring it next week. I want to make a note. Remind me to bring the mythology book, the little small one.
Do you want me to look downstairs?
No, my desk was clean because you organized it for me, so. Unlike the chaos that I'm normally in, my work mom here is my rules and organized structure. So when I went to the desk, I saw it wasn't on there. It's a short little book, but it's fat. I think it's called the Mythology Bible, and I really like that book. Because one of the things you'll see in that particular book, and there's a bunch of books like that, but this one's really easy because it has pictures and it kind of gives you the synopsis. There's a section of creation stories. There's a section of the trickster. There's a section of the rebirth. And it gives you all of the myths of all of the different cultures depending on what that culture believes. And you're going to see a theme is the cosmic egg. That's a theme over and over and over again. In Christianity, it's God created the world in 7 days. In Kabbalah, we talk about Keter, which is like the crown circle. Remember when we did a little bit of the Tree of Life?
Yeah.
And it turns into these other aspects of self. One of the things you'll see on that particular deck are Hebrew letters. And there's a book in here if you're interested. And there's a book called The Energy of the Hebrew Letters. It's a really great book. And it talks about the different letters and what they represent. How they all collectively go back to the whole. So, what do we see around this entire Sri Yantra? A circle. What does the circle mean? Wholeness, the cosmos, and in the human being, the spirit. What is next? Triangles. Okay? Triangles represent change, and triangles represent thought. Because there's a metaphysical law that's called all is mind. It is believed that the circle, the wholeness of us, is shattered into pieces, that chaos destroys us because we have a perspective or we have a thought. So that's why cognitive behavioral therapy, people really like that. It's probably the most well-researched, the most well-known model of therapy is cognitive behavioral, because you're trying to change the person's thought or trying to help them change their thought, which then should lead to behavior change. That's why I focus so much on the origin story, because if I know what happened at the moment of conception, I know how their thought is affecting their current circumstance. All I did in my model was take this and or that and or any other of these diagrams and break it down into steps and into words. That's all I did. That's all of these behavior change models did. They may not have known, because they may not have studied metaphysics. I don't know. But that's basically what every single model boils down to. There are some models that are more behavior-based in changing a behavior, but I don't know. I think the thought is more of importance to focus on, so I focus on that. Excuse me. Okay, any questions about the circle and the triangle? Can we see the symbol? In this symbol, all of these triangles represent all aspects of the world and everything that's sort of made, sort of like the creation. So we're not going to go into that. I just wanted to show the similarities and why these symbols are used and why I use them in mine. Okay? Then what do we have? We have the circle, we have the triangle.
Square.
Square. The square is earth. The square is death. In in Asian philosophies, it's death. And I mentioned a little story yesterday of a client that I had who had a premonition of death, and she kept getting the number 4, and she happens to be Asian. And is that right? I can say that right? I always get
Yes,
what,
you can say
it. So,
She's already know she is.
okay, so she was Asian, and she told me, she was like, I kept getting the number 4, the number 4, the number 4, and it turned out that her brother-in-law died that day. So that was the way that she was sort of getting that message. So when we have squares, when we have the number 4, when we have anything that's related to earth, you see it resembled in a square or this. This you'll see on your chart is your earth sign. Who wants to take a guess what your earth sign is in your chart? What is you're a Taurus?
Yeah.
What is that called?
I'm good.
What is that called? A Taurus or a Pisces or a Gemini? What are you?
Zodiac sign?
Okay.
Zodiac sign?
Right, but it's specifically what sign? The sun sign.
Oh,
Okay? So your
Like
sun
everything
sign,
else.
in her case, is Taurus. So we're dealing with Venus here. It is the opposite sign. In reality, if there's such a thing, you were born on the earth, right? Not on the sun. You are working towards becoming your sun sign. You're working towards becoming a Gemini. I mean, you're Gemini. So you're really born on what sign? Your earth sign, Sagittarius. And there's my Virgo. Those are karmic must-meet signs. Your opposite sign is a must-meet because they model the behavior stability. Because I'm a little like my daughter, just FYI, in case you haven't noticed.
Both Sagittarius and Virgo.
No, Anthony is a Gemini, so his earth sign is Sagittarius. I'm a Pisces, so my earth sign is Virgo. And she's a Virgo, so her earth sign is Pisces.
Okay, but how about for Taurus?
You're a Taurus, so your opposite is Scorpio. Scorpio. You're Cancer, Capricorn.
Capricorn, Cancer.
So you're Cancer, look at that. Trisha, you're Capricorn, so Cancer, and you're Scorpio, so you and Marsha.
I have.
So what you don't like in that person, what sign's your mom?
Libra.
Oh, okay.
Aries?
Aries, yeah.
My daughter.
Virgo.
Okay.
My other daughter.
Emma. Okay. So whatever you don't like in that sign, because you're gonna be like, ugh, gross. It's the opposite. Is exactly what you need to become
Scorpio.
in this particular plane. Because you're living on Earth. That's one of the things that you're gonna understand. That's one of the shadows. The Earth sign is one of the shadows. It's part of the bad bucket. So it doesn't matter what your word I use. When I say bad bucket, I'm talking about the shadow. We know that, right?
I don't really know. I think like she's like the only. Yeah, like I think and my nephew, one of my nephews. Besides my nephew, is you're the only Scorpio I know. Everybody else.
Well-
is every other sign.
Ask from now on, the most important question is, when's your birthday?
Oh, I asked
Yeah.
everybody that.
That is the
I
most
asked
important question, not what your sign is. Because if people say, I'm on the cusp, and when is your birthday? And if you can, what time were you born? Most important questions you're gonna ask anybody. On your dating sites?
Yes. Every time.
I want you to say,
Every
what sign
time
are you? I mean, what's your birthday and what time were you born?
I always ask
And if they
that.
don't answer, they're not worth dating.
Yep.
That's just it.
No, it's true.
Why is time important?
The time tells you the ascendant. So the ascendant,
No.
okay, I talked a little bit about this. So you have your sun, you have your moon, and you have your ascendant. That's mine, that's why I put that, that's not the symbol for the ascendant. The ascendant is here, and this is by the time. And this is what you're becoming. Your sun is also an aspect of what you're becoming, you're turning into. And your moon is what you have to kill. Because it's your past. So the moon is also your shadow. And then there's something called the descendant, which is the exact opposite sign of your ascendant. And we'll get into this when we do astrology. I'll break everything down. And that descendant is also your shadow. So when you have a person's chart, you can see their shadow immediately. You're going to look at Saturn, and you're going to know what area of their life they're getting hit hard, or they will establish chaos so that they can re-rule-ize their whole life. And the shadow aspects, which you can get. And the time is important. But you can still get a lot of information if you don't have the time. But the time is important. So I was trying to remember Ms. Rapachi's sign today, time today, so I could text her at that. I was off like 11
10
minutes.
She was off by 10 minutes.
But maybe she was really born at 5:19 and your mom
I
had her
know,
one. Okay.
maybe.
Okay, so the square, this symbol on this card, no, not that one. This is a very, very important symbol. The circle with the square. This is the symbol that they use in shamanism to represent what we call the 4 directions. And it represents Earth. That's it. But this card is about a change in values. You see the guy is upside down, and you see these little coins? In order for us to have behavior change, we must have a change in values. That's what that symbol really is. That shamanism took it to be the 4 directions and the 4 animals and the 4 stages of life and all that. Because all of that is what we establish in the earth. But really, this earth sign means that you must change your values. That's where we get from the matter. That's where we get the rules. And where do we get our principle, rules, judgments, and value system? From our childhood, from 0 to 7. And we know, if you believe in mother, father, child, that it's at conception. Does it make sense that when your parents get together, the essence of who they are, this kept me up last night. One of our colleagues had a baby. And the baby is Virgo, Cancer moon. And I know, because I have a Cancer moon, that she was born with Saturn and Pluto affecting her moon. So last night it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just kept thinking about this baby and how her life was going to play out. This is what keeps me up at night, okay? You know, she's like 3 days old, and I'm worried about her longevity, and I probably will never meet her. You know, so, but at the moment of that conception, when those juices are together, the essence of your parents at that very moment, create your rules, create your value system, whether or not you ever met those people, because they live in you. That is why we go 0 to 100. This is why we think we're changing, because if we're different from our parents, then we're better.
That was proven to me because my younger brother, like I've always been the one that's been a little bit more around my father than my younger brother. But when my younger brother passed away, like we were able to, my father came down 2 times, so he hadn't been down here, he only had been down here 1 time in our life. So when he came down those 2 times, we were able to be able to be more around him, and everybody got to see how my dad really was. And how he walks, how he talks, how he dresses, everything about him, his demeanor and everything. And they were all like, oh my God, your brother's exactly like him. And like I always said, like no matter if you're not around your parent, you're always gonna have things from them. Even my daughter, who's never lived with her father or anything, she acts just like him sometimes, or does the same faces and gestures.
And there we're talking about some physical.
Yeah.
But we can't forget the mental.
Right.
We got their mental state at conception. The mind is developed at the moment of conception. So the state of mind that they were in, not at 70, not at But at, I don't know, how old was your mom when she had you?
When she had me,
Or
she
her
was
first kid?
26. No, I was her second kid.
How old was she when did she have young children?
She had my older brother at 18, me at 26, and my younger brother at 28.
Okay, 18. Very different person at 18 than 26.
Right.
Just logic, life experiences show you a very different life.
Yeah, my father was her second marriage. So.
Okay. So even if you come from the same parents, even if you're raised and born in the same household, and I've said this before, I have twins, same trauma, so to speak. But there was at the moment, 1 minute, they say in astrology makes a difference. In their particular chart, it doesn't. But in the Vedic system, I think they have some changes. Because at 1 minute, that instant changes things, whatever. The point is that their experience of how mom and dad was, they're gonna now display it in their own way.
Right.
Okay, but we inherit all of that mind from our parents. So we have the mind, and then we have our behaviors. We have our body. Why is the circle inside? And why is there a bindi inside?
Because we all have a God within us.
Yes, thank you. Because God, or whatever you want to call it, your spirit lives within you, within the body. So this is your personal sort of God, if you will. This is your own hero, this is your own Hercules, this is your own myth. In your body, monitored by your thoughts, that comes from this sort of intact nature that was destroyed at conception, because then you had to experience, like God, yourself in 7 days, 0 to 7, not an accident. 7 skinny cows, 7 fat cows, not an accident. Okay, do we see how these things all make sense? And that is where we have to take the client. We don't get them there, they get themselves there. To chaos and whatever it is that they're coming for. And then we go, doo, 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 doo. And so the triangle becomes the major emphasis of change, which is the thought. And that is why this is the mother, father, child triad, because we get our thought from mother and father, and the relationship one is called the truth is in the triangle. So the first thing we start with is the triangle. So I'm going to give you a pretty quick recap, and then we'll go into the model of the law of octaves that I covered yesterday. There's a metaphysical law called the law of octaves. There's a philosopher I've told you about named Gurdjieff, and he writes books and books and books on this, and he makes it so complicated. And if you Google it, where's Tanisha, our Google queen, you're going to find these explanations that I find extremely difficult to understand. So I found a more simplistic. Did it seem simplistic when I explained it yesterday? Did it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I used this law of octaves to write my model. I didn't realize this until after the fact. This was not because I'm smart. It was an accident, okay? I figured it out after. I was like, oh, that's why that's that. Okay, I know more than I think, maybe, I don't know. So, who plays an instrument here?
I do.
What do you play?
Piano.
Perfect. I wanted the piano. So, what are the notes? In English. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then we start again. What is it in English? C, D, E, F, G,
A.
No, H. No,
A.
H,
No,
No.
A,
It's
right? A, B, C?
Yeah, it's A.
Yeah, A, B, C.
Okay. What do we see that's repeated?
C.
C, it's repeated. What do we see that's repeated?
Circle.
The circle.
The contiguous.
Okay? when you play on the piano, what is that called? When you have an octave and then another octave and then another. Okay, but
The
it,
tones.
they go up?
Yeah. Different
Is there a
tones.
name for that? Because I didn't know.
So it's different tones.
Scales? So
Yeah.
the first octave is one scale and then there's another scale?
There's
Okay,
different tones.
perfect.
octaves.
That's exactly how behavior change works. That's what this law is about. We go do, re, mi. 3. Delta, or Anthony. Change. The Trinity. Okay. We know that model? What's that model?
Mother.
No, this with the lines. Theory, what theory is that? It's self-actualization? Maslow?
Maslow.
Okay, that's another reason why he uses triangle.
Hierarchy of needs.
Okay. So we have here, this is the child. This is the adult. And this is the teenager. What happens when you're playing, this is symbolic, so understand it that way. Do, re, mi. What happens at mi? It's on the board.
You have a show.
Many ways. What? There is a shock. There's some chaos. In order for you to go up a scale, behavior change, the square, do something different, you must have a shock in your life. You must create some chaos, the teen. And then, what do you have here? Forget this. What number?
4.
4. And what is that? What's 4?
No, boy.
No, what is 4? What does it mean? I just taught
Stability,
you.
stability.
Stability. So from chaos, you get stability. From this shock of chaos, you get new structure, new rules, a new behavior. Okay? And then you start it again. Do, re, mi. And then your next 7 skinny cows, not an accident, is your next octave. And then your next octave. So you have fat cows and you have the skinny cow time where you're shocked. That's a lecture I taught about how years of chaos, it comes from a Bible story, where these fat cows, the skinny cows eat the fat cows. The Pharaoh had this dream and Joseph interpreted it for him. And so I call fat cows the good years. They're like what I would call in astrology non-Saturn years. And every 7 years, you have your skinny cow period, where shit's just chaotic. It's just gone bad. Okay, so the skinny cow is eating the fat cow. You're not having good. So in that story, in that Bible story, do you know the story?
Sort of.
Okay, does anyone remember what Joseph did when he interpreted the dream? What did he tell the Pharaoh? The skinny cows were coming.
That he had to save the crops and whatever.
Exactly. He had to save wheat, right, in the silos so that they would have food to feed Egypt the skinny cow years. And that's what he did, and he became king of Egypt and rah, rah, rah. Okay? So we have to conserve energy. We have to slow down. We have to rethink things. We kind of get introverted or inward. Do you remember when I talked about the inward and outward? You guys remember that? That on skinny cow years, we sort of conserve energy and we go inward, and then we go outward, and then we go inward and we go outward. On those times, we slow down. And if you remember from another lecture, I told you that this is Chronos and Kairos. Do you remember what that means? I gave you a whole lecture on Kali, the word Kali, time. Thank you. Okay? Chronos is time. Tick tock, tick tock. You've got 2 years of skinny cows, you're screwed. opportune time. It's your opportunity. It's your opportunity, my opportunity, and you happen to have a skinny cow because you're a Capricorn. You're a Capricorn too, so you have a skinny cow too. You're Taurus, not you, and not you.
Well, are we on fat cows? Is that what that means?
Yeah,
Yeah,
can
right
you
now
tell
you're
me
fat.